Have you ever stumbled across one of those old, kinda cryptic-looking charts that claim to hold the secrets to the future? Well, you're in for a treat because today we're diving into one of the originals, a mysterious market map from all the way back in the 1870s that some people, believe it or not, still swear by. We're going to see if a 150-year-old prophecy can actually hold water in the 21st century. And that's really the big question here, isn't it? Is it actually possible that a farmer from Ohio, way back in the 1870s, looking at prices for things like corn and pig iron, somehow cracked a code that can predict the absolute chaos of our modern globalized market? It sounds crazy, but let's find out. So meet the man himself, Samuel Benner. In 1875, after getting financially wiped out in the Panic of 1873, he basically dedicated his life to figuring out the market's rhythm. And the result was this very chart, which he was convinced was a foolproof guide to the ups and downs of the entire economy. So what exactly is this thing? Let's take a closer look and break down Benner's 150-year-old market map to see how it's all supposed to work. Okay, so at its core, the Benner cycle is basically a forecasting model. Benner studied commodity prices and he zeroed in on pig iron of all things. He became convinced he saw a repeating pattern, a hidden cycle. So he used that pattern to label future years, sorting them into what he called 3 distinct financial seasons. And the instructions are honestly incredibly simple. You've got Zone A up at the top, which points to the years of panic. Then there's Zone B, which signals good times. When prices are high, that's when you're supposed to sell everything. And finally, Zone C marks the hard times. When prices are low, the perfect time, he said, to buy up stocks and property, and just hold on until the good times roll back around. And Benner himself, he was unbelievably confident. His instructions on the card and with this simple, really bold command, sure thing, save this card and watch it closely. It's almost like a challenge, daring everyone for the next 150 years to try and prove him wrong. All right, so did the prophecy actually hold up? Let's put this old cycle to the test. It's time to see how its predictions really stack up against a century of actual, real-world economic history. This is where it gets really weird. The cycle's track record is, well, it's strange. Get this, it predicts a panic around 1927, just 2 years before the massive 1929 crash. It calls for a panic in 1999, right at the peak of the dot-com bubble. And it flags 2007 as good times to sell, literally just before the 2008 financial meltdown. But then you get these massive glaring misses. It predicted hard times for 1965, which was actually a year of really strong economic growth. And it called for a panic in 2019, but the market was booming until the totally unforeseen COVID crash in 2020. So here's the crucial takeaway from all that. The cycle's successes are so tantalizing. They're just close enough to feel prophetic, right? But its timing is often off by a year or two. And when it fails in a big way, completely missing the economic reality of the time. So that brings us to the big question. Why is it so inconsistent? Why does it seem to work sometimes and not others? To answer that, we've got to pop the hood and really deconstruct this cycle to find its fundamental flaws. Well, when you look a little closer, the whole thing kind of falls apart. First off, its entire foundation is 19th century pig iron prices. I mean, come on, that's hardly relevant today. Second, it's a massive oversimplification. It can't possibly account for things like a world war or the Fed stepping in or a new technology changing everything. Third, it's a classic case of what data scientists call overfitting. It's like drawing a perfect map of a river's exact path yesterday. It's 100% accurate for what already happened, but it tells you absolutely nothing about where that river's going to flow tomorrow. And finally, there's just no logical reason why these specific cycles should even exist in the first place. The truth is, our modern financial world is just infinitely more complex. We have things Benner could never have dreamed of, like high-frequency trading, central banks constantly managing economies, and completely unpredictable global events, like a pandemic that can change everything overnight. A static 150-year-old pattern just can't keep up with that level of chaos. Okay, so if the logic is this flawed, why are we even talking about it? Why does the Benner cycle still pop up on investing forums and social media? Well, to answer that, we have to step away from economics and into the fascinating world of human psychology. Let's just ask it directly. If the Benner cycle is so clearly unreliable, why do people want to believe in it so badly? Well, the answer lies in a few predictable and very human quirks of our own brains. First up is good old confirmation bias. It's our natural instinct to seek out and focus on any piece of evidence that supports what we already think is true. So, with the Benner cycle, that means believers will shout about 1929 and 2008 as proof, while conveniently just ignoring the times it was completely wrong, like 1965. We all do it. Next, we've got the post hoc fallacy, which you might know as the close enough argument. This is when we rationalize a miss after it happens. For example, a believer might say the 2019 panic prediction wasn't wrong, it was just early for the 2020 crash. See, we're creating a connection that isn't really there just to make the pattern fit. And finally, we have the gambler's fallacy. This is that deep-seated gut feeling that past patterns absolutely must repeat. It's the reason we think if a coin lands on heads 5 times in a row, it's somehow due for tails. The Benner cycle is fueled by this exact instinct, the assumption that the market's past rhythm is a guarantee of its future behavior. So after all of that, what's the final verdict? Is this thing a forgotten key to riches or just a dusty old piece of paper? Where does the Benner cycle belong today? Look, here's the bottom line. The Benner cycle is a genuinely fascinating piece of financial history. It's this incredible testament to our timeless human desire to find order in chaos. But as a practical tool for investing your hard-earned money in the 21st century, it's just not reliable. And in the end, the story of the Benner cycle isn't just about an old chart. It leaves us with a much bigger question, one for all of us. In a world that's just overflowing with data and noise, our brains are literally wired to hunt for patterns to make sense of it all. But how do we learn to tell the difference between a genuine, useful pattern and a really compelling, really comforting myth?